I'm currently on a small deserted oceanic island. However, each day the border will expand, unlocking other custom oceanic deserted islands, including the structures on them. And my goal is to survive here for 100 days. But for now, I need to swim up to the surface so I don't drown, so please. Okay, we made it. Right away, I noticed a huge pirate ship, which was still outside the border. I decided to start by swimming back down and gathering any blocks I could to create my first spot where I could stand freely. So I kept diving down to dig up sand, then coming back up for air, which took me the whole day. And by the time night fell, I already had 24 pieces of sand. However, mobs started spawning around me at the border, so I hurried up and sped up the construction of our first platform on the water. I placed all the blocks I managed to collect, but it wasn't enough, so I went back to gathering sand, alternating with catching my breath. However, night wasn't as easy as daytime. Oh no, drowned were forming from zombies. Hey, okay, this is actually really bad because we're going to have to kill them somehow. No, just how many mobs are there? I started killing the drowned and the monsters that were swimming toward me, and first I dealt with the zombies. So I killed one, then another, then a third, and then a spider. I finished off the rest of the drowned, but one of them hit me, which made my hunger start to drop. After surviving that attack, I finished collecting sand and finally built my first platform on the water, which at last allowed me to stand in this world. The platform was in the middle, so no mob could see me, which made it easy for me to wait out the night. And as soon as the border expanded, I jumped back into the water and swam to the newly discovered ship, which was right next to our tiny platform. I avoided all the mobs and swam to the ship, building my way onto it, and there a creeper was waiting for me. I let it explode, then gathered the first wood, which I used to craft a crafting table and my first wooden axe. And now we have chests, so here we've got wheat, nice, some feathers, and a heart of the sea. Here we've got more meat, a zombie, some flint feathers, okay. Alright, here we've got rotten flesh and books. Right here we have feathers. And even some books. Next, I looked around the ship some more and discovered an entrance at the front, and at the stern I found 2 more chests with maps, gold, iron, and copper, plus 2 diamonds. So I crafted an iron axe and pickaxe, then collected the books from the bookshelves and went down, where I found a few more chests containing leather, potatoes, and a bunch of mob drops like bones and rotten flesh. I also gathered the torches, then swam up to the top of the ship where I collected some more wood blocks and then coal blocks that had been used to decorate the ship. Finally, I also collected the wool from the mast so that I could craft a bed in the future. Then I took a running start and jumped into the water, which I used to return to our little island. After returning, I crafted a chest and placed it on the platform, then put my items inside it. Next, I crafted a shield along with a bed. Alright, we have a makeshift base. Eventually, I want to have a base down below, and I want to have an aquarium. By the way, there are already 3 turtles here. I also crafted a boat, which I used to sail to the ship to light it up. I also defeated a spider there and then returned to our makeshift base where I crafted iron shovels and doors. With those, I headed down to collect sand needed for the first project in this world, a glass underwater house. And I asked you to boost this video and leave a like and a subscription, for which I thank you very much. I would swim up to a section of the seabed, place doors, dig sand, and then swim back up to the surface to collect all the blocks. And that's how I spent the whole night. Alright, we can start heading towards our base now, because from what I can see the sun is starting to rise, which means the border will expand soon. I returned to the base and put my items in the chest, then jumped into the boat and set off on my first expedition to see what awaits us in this world. After a short while of sailing, I managed to spot a huge sphere underwater, so I approached it, jumped out of the boat, and went inside. I was immediately attacked by a pufferfish, so I swam down, placed a door, and waited for the poison to wear off. I didn't expect a pufferfish. There are so many fish here. Alright, from what I can see, it looks like it's just a regular aquarium with fish. So actually, that's pretty cool because I'll be able to gather some food here so we can start killing these fish. I swam from fish to fish, taking breaks to sink to the bottom and catch my breath, and after a while I managed to gather quite a lot of fish, so I surfaced and then started swimming toward my base. Before surfacing at our pseudo base, I dove down to the bottom once more, where I collected some cobblestone needed for a furnace. I surfaced, crafted some furnaces, and put potatoes, fish, and coal into them. Then I placed the items into a chest and set off on another journey across these waters in search of new challenges. Yes! We found some kind of island! Alright, what is this? Check it out, we've got some underwater palm trees. what looks like a castaway's hut plus a ship. I jumped out of the boat and swam down, where I began exploring the area, starting with the shipwreck, where I managed to find a ton of iron, lapis, as well as feathers, paper, and pieces of gold. Next, I moved on, specifically to the castaway's hut, which was right next to the wreck, so I swam inside and started collecting the chests. Let's check what's in the chest. We've got some dried kelp, a fishing rod, okay. There's a book, but unfortunately nothing is written in it, so that's a shame. And let's take a look at this chest as well. We've got even more paper and there's a compass, so that's actually really cool. In the last chests of this house, I managed to gather even more resources, as well as some more food, after which I surfaced. And since I didn't see anything else of interest in this place, I returned to the base. After coming back, I collected the fish and potatoes from the furnaces and put some sand in them, then organized the items in the chest and slept through the night. In the morning, I added more sand to the furnace, then went down, leveled the ground, and decided to make a circle for our new house at the bottom of this area. I also destroyed our tower on the surface, then collected the glass from the furnaces and started building the first layers of our base. Alright, it looks pretty good for now. I want to make the entrance right here, so for now we can just break these blocks, and then we will install a proper door here since this will be the main entrance. I went back up, added more sand to the furnaces and collected the glass, then returned downstairs where I finished our glass sphere and started drying out the interior, for which I used sand. Cleaning out this place wasn't easy, but after a while I managed to finish it, so I went back upstairs, crafted a diamond axe and spent the night there. As soon as I woke up, I gathered all the items from the surface and started transporting them downstairs. When I went down, I realized the mistake I had made. Namely, I forgot to light up the area inside our base, so there were skeletons waiting for me there. After a brief fight, thanks to my shield, I managed to defeat them, so I went back to decorating our base, where I placed furnaces, a crafting table, and a chest. I went back upstairs, finished gathering the items, and completed moving them downstairs. I crafted item frames and placed them on one of our walls. So for now, we've explored 3 different islands, which includes the ship, the island with the fish, and the tropical island, so that is exactly how those 3 islands look, and now we can finally go search carefully for the next one. I placed a bed and grabbed some more food from the chest, then crafted an iron armor, got into the boat, and set off on my journey. After a while of sailing, I managed to find a deserted island with a turtle, so I approached it, and the first thing I found there was a turtle shell helmet, which allowed me to breathe underwater for longer, so I put it on right away. I sailed around the island and the only thing that caught my attention were the turtle eggs. However, I didn't have silk touch, so I had no way to collect them. Before leaving, I killed a turtle, which dropped some seagrass. I took it as a souvenir and surfaced, got into my boat, and then set off on my journey again. Yes, we've got something new. Alright, we've got some kind of colorful reef here, so we can sail over and see what's here. Oh, the storm has even disappeared for us, so that's perfect. I went inside where I killed a creeper and then collected diamonds, gold, emeralds, lapis, and iron along with amethyst from the chest. Next, I noticed an enchanting table, but it only went up to level 12, so I took the books from the bookshelves, knowing that they might be enchanted. I gathered all that I could and rushed over to the nearby anvil, where I added the Respiration 3 and Aqua Affinity enchantments to our turtle helmet. Next, I made a crafting table and crafted a diamond chest plate and boots, then checked the cost of adding enchantments. I picked up the anvil and the enchanting table and also crafted a single bookshelf as a keepsake from this place. And I think we can get out of here now. By the way, this was a really cool room. I don't know if there's anything else here because I see there are barrels. We got it! Alright, bottles. Okay, I was about to leave and we found experience bottles. Now I'll be able to use them nicely on the anvil. So actually, I'm not leaving yet. Thanks to finding those bottles, I added the Strider 3 enchantment to our diamond boots and sharpness 3 to the axe. I crafted a diamond pickaxe, then added efficiency 3 to it, and also put unbreaking 3 on our helmet. After that, I picked up the anvil and defeated 2 more endermen, from which I got 1 pearl, and then I swam up to the surface. Alright, as a souvenir to remember that this was a coral reef, we'll take this 1 coral even though it's ugly, and I guess we can head back home now. I returned to the base, where I put the items into a chest and crafted another chest for the rest that didn't fit into the previous one. I placed down the enchanting table and the anvil. And then I set aside some seagrass as a keepsake from the Turtle Island, as well as dead coral to represent the coral reef island. I took food and iron from the chest and sailed to the ship, where I gathered half a stack of wood and set off on an expedition in search of more underwater islands. After a while of sailing, I managed to find something sticking out of the water, and it turned out to be rocks protruding above the surface. So I sailed over and climbed onto them, and there it turned out that it's a blue axolotl. Alright, we've got a blue axolotl, plus there are 2 pink ones as well, but it's super cool because we'll have a blue axolotl from here. It's actually the first time in my life that I've seen one in Minecraft. I crafted a bucket and collected the blue axolotl, then his 2 pink brothers, and besides them, there was nothing else on this island. So I also gathered some mossy cobblestone as a souvenir, and then set off on my journey again. I kept sailing and sailing until I managed to find something I had seen before in my life. Okay, I see it. Alright, there's a monument, so that's really super cool. We'll be able to loot it nicely, so we'll head in there in a moment. I sailed up to it, and as soon as I got off the boat, I got the mining fatigue effect, so I struggled to break a block to get inside the monument, and then, once I was in, I immediately started fighting the guardian boss. However, after taking one of its hits, I swam up to the surface where I regenerated my hearts and air, and then I went back to defeat the boss, from which I got a sponge. Next, I moved through the corridors to the further part of the monument, where I found another boss whom I killed using the same technique, taking breaks to regenerate my hearts and air. I couldn't see the third boss anywhere, so I started digging my way to the treasure, but the mining fatigue effect wasn't helping, so I decided to wait it out by killing the small guardians. As soon as the effect wore off, I dug all the way through and collected all the gold. Then I also gathered some sponges I managed to find in one of the rooms, as well as decorative blocks that might come in handy in the future. I swam up to the surface and set off to look for more islands. There it is. Alright, I think we found a new island. Or is this a turtle island? No, it's a kelp island. I dove down and dug into the center, but there was nothing there, so I took a piece of kelp as a souvenir and moved on. I sailed for quite a while, but it was worth it because I finally found a huge structure along with drowned huts at the bottom, so I jumped off my boat and dove down to check out the first one. Here's a chest. And we've got regular loot, which is basically wheat, some coal, and it's probably going to be like that in everyone. I'm not really in the mood to loot all of this, but we can check a few chests. So here we've got some more stuff, some more items. I don't even really need this. In another chest, I managed to find a looting 3 book, so I kept on searching through the houses, collecting all the items from the chests. Besides the usual wheat and coal, I also found a golden cap which will come in handy in the Nether. Next, I sailed up to the mountain where I found a bunch of animals and decided to kill a few cows. I also sailed down where I collected a magma block as a souvenir from this island, and then I jumped into my boat and returned home. I'll just swim in here and we can put away the mossy cobblestone, prismarine bricks, kelp and the magma block. And that's how our collection looks so far. But we want even more, so now I'm putting away my items and soon we'll set out on another journey. I put the items in the chest and threw the fish and meat in to cook. I moved our anvil to a new spot and crafted a diamond sword, then added the looting 3 enchantment to it. I slept through the night, and in the morning I set off on another journey, which this time wasn't so short. However, I managed to find the next island. This time from a distance you could already see a mountain and a ship on the surface, so I sailed over and jumped onto that little island. I boarded the ship and collected the chest where, as usual, I found some iron and some interesting leather pants with the fire protection enchantment. However, that wasn't what caught my attention the most. There's actually an X here. I didn't notice it because I built up from the wrong side. And there's also a skull here, so I'm not sure if that's a good sign. But we can probably dig up the center of the X. I dug even lower and fell into a room full of chests, where I found almost 30 golden apples and over a stack of golden carrots. I now had so much food that it would definitely be enough for me. However, what the next chest contained was truly impressive. What kind of chest is this? Hey, alright, we've got 19 blocks of gold and 6 netherite ingots as well. Alright, that's some really good loot. I gathered everything from that room and built my way up, where I found a trapped chest that was connected to a piston. So if I opened the chest, I would have fallen into that vault. Inside the chest, there was a skeleton skull and some bones, which I collected before heading back up, where I swam over to the skull, which turned out to be empty. However, what I had found was enough for me. I jumped into the boat and as a souvenir, I took the skeleton skull. I returned home where a bunch of turtles were waiting for me, but I went inside, crafted diamond pants and put my items away in the chest. Next, I swapped the prismarine block from the island with the monument for a sponge, and I returned the skeleton skull as a souvenir from the last island. Then we definitely need to craft a smithing table, but I still can't use that netherite, lacking smithing templates, so why even have this netherite? It doesn't do anything for me. I left the house and set off on my journey again, and after a long trip I managed to find an island with a lighthouse, so I sailed over to it. I started exploring by checking the barrels underwater, where I found some fish and fishing rods. Next I swam over to the lighthouse and entered it underwater, where I found some shells in a chest. Finally I left the small island for last, but unfortunately there was nothing there, so I jumped into the boat and returned to our underwater base. After returning, I crafted some item frames and placed them on the sides, then put the shells there and crafted a conduit. I put the items in the chest and then swam out next to the house to place the conduit. And I think this is the best version of the conduit, as far as I can tell. And actually, this is the first time in my life that I've built one in Minecraft. For me, it's kind of abstract, but now we have this conduit. Next, I went back to the house and crafted another conduit, which I placed on the other side of our house. After creating 2 conduits, I decided to build a house for our axolotls. So I dug out a mini base for our creatures in the middle of our base, and then added water along with the axolotls. I also added some glass to the floor of our base, and finally I added a few kelp plants. And this is how our axolotl enclosure looks. It turned out really cool, and now we can set off on another journey. I swam up to the surface, then jumped into the boat and set off on another expedition in search of more islands. After a long voyage, I managed to find a frozen underwater island with bears drifting on the water's surface, so without wasting a moment, I sailed over to it and then dove down. The only thing I found were trees, but luckily there was an abandoned portal nearby from which I collected obsidian and gold blocks. Next, I gathered some spruce wood and swam back up to the surface, where I jumped back into the boat and continued my journey. Yes. So we've got something new, and wow, it's absolutely huge. What is this? Hey, wow, this looks amazing! I think this is Atlantis, at least that's what it seems like to me. I dove down and the first thing that caught my eye were diamond blocks. But I didn't need them anymore, so I swam to the center of this Atlantis where there was a chest, and inside were sponges and a trident. So I took everything from it and also grabbed the potions from the brewing stands nearby. I looked around the entire structure, and apart from really liking how it looked, there was nothing else to be found in this place. I swam up to the surface and got into the boat, which I used to return to our base. And now the most important things. First, putting away the blocks here, so I'm putting away the spruce wood, and we'll also put away the trident as 2 souvenirs. We can destroy this for now. I set up the brewing stands and put the items away in the chest, then took all the items I needed for the Nether. On top of that, I crafted a diamond helmet and went to build a Nether portal, which I placed on the surface above our base. I built the portal and went back downstairs to get a lighter. Let's check out what the Nether looks like. Alright, I'm actually curious about this because I don't know what to expect, and I think that's water here from what I can tell. I'm not sure if that's actually water. At least I can take some netherrack as a souvenir. I dug my way out of our bubble and swam off to look for the first island in this strange nether, and after a while I found a dome full of soul sand and the bones of some fish that must have died there. I killed an enderman which dropped 3 pearls thanks to my looting sword, then I collected some more soul sand as a souvenir and swam further on. We've got another dome here, and from what I can see there are a few piglins around, so I went inside and there I had to eat a golden apple because the piglins attacked me. But that didn't stop me, and I ran to the bastion where I traded gold with the piglins. I alternated trading gold with killing piglins. However, thanks to the number of piglins I managed to gather for trading, it literally took just a moment. Look at these trades go! And now they're going to throw out a ton of stuff all at once? Check this out! What's going on? Alright, this is the fastest trade I've ever done in my life. I gathered the blaze rods, potions and pearls and headed for the exit. And on the way I also picked up a block of blue leaves and continued on to look for more domes. After wandering in the water for a while, I reached another dome, this time with red leaves, and when I went inside it turned out there was some kind of structure waiting for me. I don't really know what it is. I've got some kind of structure here, so we'll check it out in a moment, and I hope it's the modified fortress. No! This is some kind of hall, like a ring. Hey, okay, this looks awesome, really cool. It's just that these pig creatures are attacking me, so let's go upstairs here using the stairs. Upstairs, I managed to find a giant telescope, so it's really cool that I found such a structure. However, there was nothing else here, so I left the dome and continued sailing to look for the fortress. After sailing for a bit, I found another underwater glass sphere containing a basalt biome and a fortress in the center, so I went inside to explore. Now we need to find a spawner, and it was located very quickly. That's the fastest spawner I've ever found, and since I have looting 3, this will actually go faster. I killed a ghast and the first blaze, and since I had looting 3 on my sword, I managed to get the rod super quickly, so on the way back I also collected some basalt, then dug my way out of that sphere, sailed towards the portal and then headed to our base. After coming back I was out of wood, so I returned to the ship to get some and then went back to the house where I crafted some item frames and put them up on the wall. So first there was this island, then this island, then this island, then this island, and finally there was this one. We can take this down, and just like that, we've visited the entire Nether and the entire overworld. I put the items in the chest and added power 3 enchantment to our bow, then I crafted some pearls and threw the first one, after which I sailed in its direction. After wasting 2 pearls, we finally found the stronghold, so I headed towards it. I put the pearls into the portal and jumped in for the final battle with the dragon. And let's see what the end looks like. And just as I suspected, it's completely flooded with water, so now I don't know what the fight with the dragon will look like since everything is underwater. I swam from crystal to crystal, destroying them one by one, and then I swam up, where it turned out the dragon was waiting for me above the water surface, so I kept shooting at it and hitting it until I finally managed to kill it.